Hey everyone, welcome back to week 8 of my 2-week Phil Maffetone challenge. My name's Rob, and today we're going to talk about the last week, the changes. The first thing I want to point out is that this is week 8 of a 2-week challenge. So one of the things that I've talked about a couple of times through through this process is being able to find something that was sufficiently part of your normal way of living that you didn't require an excessive amount of discipline in order to stay on the diet. Because if you have to count calories and if you have to do too much work, it won't work. At least I don't. In my experience of watching other people, they do a diet for 2 weeks and then they lose 10 pounds and a week later they've regained it. So my philosophy has kind of been, I want to be very careful about developing something that I can sustain, because I'm a little bit older and can't afford to do the yo-yo diet stuff anymore. So how's it going? This list really hasn't changed. If you've been watching, almost immediately I started to see these improvements right here. And to me, the morale was a factor of the alertness and the hunger. I've mentioned this before, more so than the weight and all. But the fact that I was more in control of my my health and that sort of thing. The weight trend reinforces the morale. The reflux, not having the acid reflux events at night, things like that. All these things have gone into it. But I will say that despite the oncoming oppressive summer heat, which typically tends to depress me a little bit, I like summer better than winter. But when it's 100 degrees out, it's sort of suffocating, right? And you can't just go out and go for a quick run any time of the day. When it's the spring or the fall and it's a beautiful 82-degree day, you can go out and go for a jog, go for a bike ride and be comfortable. And when it's 100 degrees out, that tends to have similar effects to your physical fitness plan as the cold weather did, right? So with that said, as we enter this phase of high heat, I don't know if it's going to remain. This is June. I don't know if it's going to go all summer, but typically July and August are worse. And so my morale is still pretty high. I still feeling the benefits of the alertness and hunger reduction and things like that, and so that's good. The last week I had a little bit of regression on the weight loss. I picked up a couple pounds. And that was a carbo week from hell, so to speak. And so this week, I am sort of back on the right track for the time being. I consider the right track to be descending. Now, when I get down to about 185, I'm going to consider stable as my right track. But the good news is that actually happened. I lost weight again this week. I'm going to hide my ugly mug here, and let's take a look at what we're trying to do. This is that 2-week test for those who are coming in late, philmaffetone.com. He has a 2-week carbo or metabolic reboot, if you will, if you're interested in doing what I'm talking about. Now this is the chart that's continuing. You see the last week here, ending on the 18th year of June. 192.8. If you go back to last Sunday, I was at 195, and the previous Sunday 193.6, and at the low point I was at 193. So I have a new personal best right here, so to speak. 192.8. It's not much, but compared, that's a 3 pound loss from almost 3 pounds here from last week. So that's encouraging. So let's take a look at this chart in a little Okay, and I had to do a little refresh there. So here you can see, you may recall last week, if you've been tracking this, that this was kind of the Carb week from hell, starting with my granddaughter's graduation, where everything was sugar and candy. So at the end of last week, I was at back above 195. I peaked out at 195.8, and then I kind of got back to 195. And all right, so the question was, would I be able to resume my weight loss or not? And the good news is this week continues to come down. I'm down now to 192.8, which is a new personal best, and haven't done as much fitness activities in the last 14 days for a variety of reasons. You can see here, but I did actually get out on the bike this week and just did a one lapper, and so 30 minutes or so, and you can see the caloric impact. Again, for those who maybe haven't tracked on all this, the calories, I don't put a lot of stock in the way your calories are calculated by watches and things like that, but just for consistency between running and swimming and biking and things like that, I decided to use calories to indicate level of effort, right? So I've had physical fitness activities, and this gives you a relative level of effort across 3 different kinds of events. This was about a 20-mile bike ride. This is about a 6-mile bike ride, for example. This was a swim session, okay? So, with that said, you can see that the trend is now continuing back down. So that's kind of what I was hoping to see. And you can see this is working. Now, as far as the 5 and 2 plan, 5 days of low carb, no carb, and 2 days of, eat whatever you want. This week was probably more like, I don't know, like a 4.5, 2.5 kind of week. We had a little bit of carbs in the course of the week. Not much for morning, at noon, morning, afternoon, all the way through dinner time on all 5 days was low carb, no sugar kind of thing. And we had a couple of, I think we had spaghetti one day, one time during the week, and we had something else. I can't remember. So we had some popcorn, some very, very limited deviations from the plan. And I still was able to lose a little bit of weight this week. And that's kind of, what I'm working for is to, if we go back up here, this is the 195 that I maintained for 10 or 15 years before COVID. Well, my new goal weight is down here at 185. I feel like I always felt, even at the 195, I felt I was too heavy. Probably optimum, if you look at around, for a younger man, I would say optimum would be about 175. For someone my age, I think 185 is pretty good. It definitely takes most of the excess fat off of me if I can get down to 185. If everything was going good, 175 would be cool, but I haven't been 175 in 25, 30 years. So I'm not going to be unrealistic about my goal here. So you can see I'm continuing down. This is where, this weight right here, that's bouncing around this band just like this, I did this for 10, 15 years. COVID, all the excuses, lost control, got up to the 208, 210 range, and that's kind of one of the things that started me on this path. And the key takeaway now, probably more important than any of the specifics here, is week 8. The diet is such that if you work at it, and by work I don't mean a whole lot of work. If you take the Cokes out of your daily routine for example. Take the Cokes and the sugars out a little bit. Now that after week 2, the first 2 weeks I was very dedicated, right, and had almost no carbs, no sugar. In the 6 weeks since then, I've had carbs, I've had sugar, I've had Cokes, I've had candy, I've had cake, and fruits, and all those things that have sugars in them. Okay, but my morning and afternoon is largely carbo-free, sugar-free. Bacon, eggs, kind of breakfast, that sort of thing. Non-sweetened drinks. I do use, a Mio, like a drink, a flavor, fruit punch flavoring. And I know that there's some discussion about whether, unnatural or whatever, non-sugar sweeteners like stevia and all that sort of stuff, whether they are good or bad and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to drink only water for the rest of my life. So one of the things that I do is I take Mio as whether it's fruit punch or whatever, and I flavor my water so that I will drink an adequate amount of water and stay properly hydrated. So when you add those minor violations, if you will, to the pure 2-week program, I'm going along, pretty easily, staying within the diet. For the most part, this past week, I was low carb, no carb. I had a couple of things of, servings of fruit. I had a couple of one or two things of popcorn that I shared with my wife for when we watched a TV show, and I think we had spaghetti one day this week, so we had a little bit of carbs there. But let's just say that it is noticeably fewer carbs and sugars than before I started this, but not completely excluded. So if we were being honest, like I said, this is more like a 4.5 to 2.5 week, and I was still able to lose a little bit of weight. So if it's going to be a life-sustaining kind of activity, lifelong activity, it can't be so draconian that you can't sustain it, right? And so here we are on week 8. I've never done a diet really. It's just not in my nature to count calories and all that kind of stuff. And this isn't really a diet where I have to do that. I have to just look at the food I'm about to eat and just ask the simple question, okay, this is carbs. Do I really need it? Or is there something else in the refrigerator that will satisfy my hunger and, is probably better for me, right? And so far, that's a pretty easy, you know it when you see it, right? You know when you reach into that bowl of M&Ms that this is probably not the most Phil Maffetone compliant food you're going to eat that day. Maybe you eat it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you say, well, let me go get a little cheese ball, a barbell or barbell or whatever they're called instead, or, some carrots or whatever, right? And all you have to do is look at it and just ask yourself, kind of mentally ask yourself, is it on the yes list or the no list? If it's on the no list, you just got to say, okay, do I really want to do this or not? That's it. That's all you got to do. And then if the answer is no, I want to lose another couple pounds, just put it down and go get something else to satisfy your hunger. And that's really all it takes so far. And the good news is, I didn't know if I would be able to sustain this thing or not. And so far, 2 months is a pretty long time to sustain something. Now, I intend to sustain it for forever, so to speak, as long as I happen to be on this planet. But I don't know if that'll happen or not. But the fact that I've made it to 2 months is a pretty major milestone, given that I've never been inclined to do any kind of diet whatsoever. So hopefully this information helps, and we'll see you again next week, because I'm going to be doing it at least one more week, and we'll see how it goes.